Now, if I could humbly suggest that when we start our budget considerations for our next round, that discussion takes place then, because then we can start talking about what kind of plans you might have for celebration and how we can incorporate it into the budget on an ongoing basis. So I think that would be an appropriate place to try and get a budget line item when we start talking about our next budget. We just finished this past one. In regards to the highway network plan, because I'm not really sure what you're talking about, because I know that we've got some master plans in play around the riverfront and the river walk, et cetera. And part of that has to do with how do we revitalize Front Street. If we do that alternate truck route, or whatever you want to call it, how do we revitalize? Those plans are we already have those, so I'm not really sure which highway network plan you're talking about. I've been around for a while and I don't even recall this one, so I'm not really sure. And when you say retake back what, like to what extent would this plan be over and above the plans we already have in play?
Okay, just very quickly to respond to you, Councillor Rudenberg, I'm talking about basically if we're successful in getting the north-south connector, that gives us a wonderful opportunity to reclaim Front Street and Legion Drive and incorporate that in along with Lhtako Park and so on, and really make the sort of the southern tip or the southern area of our downtown a people place where you're not inundated by logging trucks and diesel fumes and dust and so on. That's where I'm coming from.
Right. And so if someone can let me know what the correct name to that master, is it Riverfront Plan? That we have a master riverfront plan that dealt with that. So anyway, I don't want to recreate something that we already have.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that whenever we're talking about the riverfront plan, or whenever we're talking about, changes to our transportation plan, that we include in that, that we're looking forward to the north-south connector to make that plan more viable. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a couple of comments on that. The highways plan, the highway roadway network plan that you referred to, I don't think that thing exists anymore. We, as you mentioned, we tried to dig it out. I talked to some of our older staff members, and they're like, yeah, I don't recall that exactly. But we have done a number of pieces of the work. The waterfront plan was one of those where we did an extensive waterfront plan, but talked about what happens if Front Street becomes freed up so it's no longer an arterial of the province, but it's actually a municipal road. And there's been quite a bit of discussion around that. In addition, on the south side of town, highways, through that safety study where council was very engaged with, redeveloped that whole section of Highway 97 to try to improve safety, and a lot of great outcomes there. At the same time, they did quite a bit of work with very limited spaces on Front Street and up Highway 97 on the north side to try to improve some of the safety aspects there. And I think very successfully as well. So as far as totally doing a new highway roadway network plan, I don't think that's in the books, and I think that sounds very, very expensive to try to look at all your roads and see what's the best plan there. But having said that, we also received, I'm sure council is aware of the planning grant that we had for $500,000, which we got from the province around infrastructure master planning. And that contained a component of looking at highways where there's issues and saying, how do we fix this? Is there, if there's problems, let's work on it through that funding. And there is definitely some funding there, and we mentioned the road. So I think if there's specific areas or opportunities where we could look at and say, okay, here's some areas where we need to do a little bit more work, that would be a fund that we could use for that and get a lot of that achieved. And if there's specific areas around the interconnector or how that looks where we haven't answered the questions, that'd be a chance to get some of that work done too. But again, having said that, most of that interconnector work has been done, and most of it funded by the ministry as part of their original feasibility. I think that perhaps the right plan would be to pull out some of their feasibility documents and flip that to council and say, okay, is there something missing here that you were looking for? And we're happy to do that, to re-engage at that level of where their planning was. But just I don't want to put into the document that we're going to redo the whole network plan for our highways, because that would be horrifically expensive, I think, and not really achieve its goal, since we have the big chunks of it in other plans, right?
Thank you for that, Mr. City Manager, and I'm on the same page as you, because you know what I think of consultants. So, I mean, certainly a full-blown master highway network road transportation plan would be enough for a consultant to retire on. But having said that, I think what I'm getting at here is that any opportunity that there is to inject a reference to the proposed interconnector in such things as our riverfront plan, I think would be useful. So we'll leave it at that. So is there any further comment on the official? Oh, I just wanted to answer Councillor Rudenberg's question about where that original highway network plan that I'm referring to, and it was developed at the time that Highway 97 through the downtown was split. Originally, Highway 97 was basically coming down Front Street from the north, making a hard left onto Carson Avenue and on your way out. And then when they decided, and this was a decision that was reached between City Council and the then Ministry of Highways, they decided to split Highway 97 at the Front Street Carson Avenue intersection at the Hudson's Bay building, so that southbound traffic would be directed along Maple or along Legion Drive, and northbound traffic would be generally coming north on Carson and then turning right onto Front Street. So that's how that all came about, and that goes back a long ways, which explains the white hair and the wrinkles.
Definitely before my time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But not before my time. So anything further on this? Do we need a motion to finally adopt this so that we can send it to the printers? I'm seeing a nod from our deputy. Okay, we've got it. I'm going to go to you, Mr. City Manager, but I'm going to get a mover over here with Councillor McKelvey and a seconder with Councillor Rudenberg. City Manager.
So thank you. 1 point for clarification, and the 100th year anniversary for council. Does council want an item in here, or do we want to leave that to our next budget cycle as suggested by Councillor Rudenberg? I just need to know before we authorize this to move forward.
Councillor Elliott.
Yeah, I think we should. We've already got the budget ready to go, and we're right at the end game here. We've had 4 strategic planning sessions already. I think we put it off till next year and have the discussions new again.
Okay, just for clarification, I wasn't even looking at putting a nickel into this, but just mentioning it in the corporate plan or in the strategic plan that we're looking forward to it. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine.
Well, Mr. Mayor, my challenge with that is this is the first time we've heard it, and we've had 4 strategic planning sessions.
Oh, with all due respect, I raised it. I've been on about this.
About getting it.
About putting something in about our 100th anniversary. So, but
you just mentioned a theater. A performing arts theater for our 100th.
I'm not for a minute suggesting that go into our strategic plan. That's just a personal Ron Paull thing. All I'm saying is
it's hard for me to differentiate at times, Mr. Mayor.
Let's recognize that we have our 100th anniversary coming, and that's all that we need to say. But if you're go ahead, Councillor Vic.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Elliott and Rudenberg. This is a new idea, could have a cost implication. Our budget's locked and loaded, Mr. Mayor. Let's leave this until our next budget cycle.
Okie dokie, fine. So I have a mover, I have a seconder, don't I? Okay, so all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Done. Thank you. Okay, the next item is Admin Report 67/23, City of Quesnel Procedure Bylaw number 1948 of 1923, and this is to amend bylaw number 1920, first, second, and third readings. Deputy Corporate Administrator Hartley to report.
In follow-up to the March 30th, 2023 PABCOM meeting and the April 25th regular council meeting, the recommendation is to move the council meeting times as discussed. So the recommendation reads as follows, that council provide first, second, and third readings of the proposed City of Quesnel Procedure Bylaw 1948 of 2023 to amend the bylaw as follows. In Part 2 council meetings, the times will be changed from 6 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. And that council approves alternative means of public notice for the proposed changes, proposed bylaw 1948 to be advertised for 2 consecutive weeks on the city's website, the city's social media channels, and the City Hall public posting areas as per section 94(1)(3) of the Community Charter.
Okay, thank you. And there is a note under N, a bylaw presenting for the first time or accompanied by a staff report will appear and receive readings under agenda item K, staff report. So we're looking to have first, second, and third reading at this moment.
Yes, please.
Okay, so we have a motion for first reading, moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Vic.
Sorry, I just need one resolution for
I
that.
was trying to stretch it out. Okay. Oh, it's okay. First, second, and third. We have a motion by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Vic. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you for that. Now we go to admin report number 6923, annual parade approval. Deputy Corporate Administrator Hartley to report.
Thank you. So the purpose is to provide council with a list of annual parade and road closure requests for the consideration of standing approval so that staff are able to manage them without bringing them back to council annually. The recommendation is that council approve the following list of annual parades, events in perpetuity unless they are significant changes that staff would bring back to council. June Pride Parade, July Gold Dust Mall, July Billy Barker Days Parade, September Touch a Truck, September Take Back the Night, November Remembrance Day, and that council directs Director of Public Works Operations and Director of Development Services to work with these organizations to coordinate the parades and events. And in that, any new requests for a road closure parade would still come to council, and the way we do rolling parades right now, those are actually approved by the directors as is. Those don't require a vote of council. And I'm going to be bringing potentially a policy to PABCOM that incorporates this.
Perfect. That sounds great. Okay, so a motion then on the recommendation, if I could, please. Councillor Rudenberg, Councillor Vic, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you for that one. And the next one is council information package. We don't have anything. We've already dealt with M1, which is the Caribou Ski Touring Club, and then M2, which is a letter from the Quesnel Pride Society. Corporate Administrator, could you just capsulize that for us, please?
It's, in brief, it's a request for their parade and your attendance at their event. I probably should not have had this on the agenda as I was taking care of the event under the staff report. So that was an oversight on my part.
Okay, so it's just basically there for information? Okay, and I will say that June 9th, 10th is my birthday, and I'm probably not going to be here, so I'm going to be looking for acting mayor or someone. In their letter, they do say that the invitation is open to myself as mayor and also to MLA Oaks and also to another council member, so we'll sort that out in due course. The final letter is from the Quesnel Downtown Association, request for a continuation of the Clean Team program. And that's to Deputy Corporate Administrator.
We received a letter from the Downtown Association dated May 15th, 2023. Though not the solution to all the challenges facing the downtown, the Pure Clean Team program has been an effective tool in improving the safety and cleanliness of our streets. We urge Mayor and Council to aggressively pursue sources of funding to continue the program as we continue to work together to improve our city. And City Manager has input on that as well.
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we're actually pleased to see this letter from the Downtown Association who recognizes the value of that clean team. council as well recognizes that value, and because of that, council had earlier extended the funding for the clean team till July 31st and asked that city staff work towards seeing what we could do to find other partnerships to do that. So we're currently doing that. We're working with Northern Health to try to find a partnership that works, that maybe spreads the cost of this important program out around a few funders as opposed to just the city. We're very aware of the expiry date here of July 31st and of the importance of the project, and we'll report back to council as soon as we've had some more substantive conversations and come up with a recommended approach that seems to work for both Northern Health and us.
Okay, Councillor Rudenberg.
Thank you. And it's good to hear that the city is working with Northern Health. At NCLJ, we did have a meeting with Northern Health, and that was on our list of topics to speak to. And they have assured me that they are looking at what a plan might be, because we're not the only community that has concerns of this magnitude with the work that the clean team does. And so they have two of their staff people, and I'm sorry, it'll be in my report that comes out next week, working on this particular issue, knowing that it is a timely piece for all of our communities.
Thank you, Councillor Rudenberg. So there's no action required on that. That's just basically for information at this point. Okay, so we've done the Quesnel Downtown Association. And a letter from MLA Corley Oaks to Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure on the North-South Connector, Deputy Corporate Administrator.
We received a copy of a letter from MLA Oaks to the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure dated May 12th regarding the North-South Interconnector. She is writing to them to outline some issues regarding the affordability of the aging bridges, safety concerns throughout our city, and asking the ministry to work closely with residents, businesses, and organizations collaboratively to ensure minimal impacts.
Thank you. That is for council's information, and I think that there's quite a gravity to that letter. I'm certainly happy to see it, and that's why I asked that it be put on the agenda for council's information. Is there any comment or question on that? It's just for information. Okay, having looked at that one, we have dealt with bylaws under item N, which was bylaw number 1948. We have no new business. Information and question period. Number 1, changes to upcoming meeting schedule. We have no changes. No changes to committee appointments. Announcements, future events. Anyone? Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to bring information to the public, May is MS month. This message got to me a little bit late, but it's still an important message. And the MS walk this year is going to be on June 3rd from 11 till 2. So if people could take part in that, it would be fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Rudenberg.
Thank you. So 2 pieces. So for our BC Winter Games, the Lhtako Quesnel Winter Games, we actually have a key volunteer rally that's happening with all of our chairs of the various committees that are involved in putting the games on. So that's actually happening at the end of this week. And then the other piece is Minerals North. It will be here for about 2.5 days, starting on the 31st. And it was one of those pieces that we had planned before COVID, and then it kind of got blown out of the water. And so now we're, a week and a half away from hosting. I think there's over 300 people who have already registered for this event. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rudenberg. Anyone else on that one? Okay, thank you. I will now go to gallery questions, and just the routine is that if you do have a question, come up and identify yourself, and it can only pertain to items that are on the agenda for which you were in attendance for the discussion. So go ahead, RJ.
This is like public, much like you have done. I don't know if I'm legal or not, but I'd like to put a big thank you for supporting our festival. which is a public event that did happen a couple of weeks ago. And I'd like to say the great big thank you to the whole town, including our city, which helped with the barricades and many other things. And Mr. Mayor, you came and made a presentation. And the festival was one of the most successful one we've ever had. So therefore, there's many people, our volunteers, which are by the dozens and dozens of them that work so hard in such a short time to bring this festival to commission. Furthermore, what I'm really impressed with is our sponsor, our business people who supported with gift, with all kinds of things. So therefore, I know I'm not legal, but this is, I'll pretend this is a public announcement, and I probably can get away with it. And I thank you very kindly, and thank our business, our volunteer, and don't forget our musician. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, RJ. We've got it. It is question period. Thank you. And you were, just for clarification, you were referring to the Bluegrass Country Festival. You didn't mention that, but I know what you were talking about, so thank you. Anyone else with questions from the gallery? Okay, hearing none then, I will call for a motion to adjourn. Councillor McKelvey, Councillor
Nobody wants to go.
Rudenberg, done. Thank you. No discussion. We're done.